Waycross presents an election forum for the Northwest Local Board of Education. There are 5 candidates running for 3 open positions. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Monica Bowles, Mark Gilbert, Christopher John Heather, Nicole C. Talby, Joe John Yoshimura.
Welcome to another Waycross Election Forum. This forum is for Board of Education member in the Northwest Local School District. We have 5 candidates here in the studio. We have Monica Bowles, we have Mark Gilbert, Chris Heather, Nicole Talby, and Joe John Yoshimura. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dana Gagnon, Government Programming Coordinator at Waycross Community Media. And if you are watching this program live on October 14th, you can be part of it. You can email your questions for the candidates to me here in the studio. That email address is live@waycross.org. And if you send a question to that, it will come magically to this device and I will be able to ask the candidates for you. Now that only works if you're watching this live on October 14th. Now there's some rules for those questions, so let's cover those before we get started. You must be a Northwest Local School District resident to ask a question. So to that end, your question must include your name and your address. Now, I'm not going to read your last name or your address on the air. It's just how we make sure the questions for the Northwest School District candidates are really coming from residents in your district. Now, questions must be phrased for all candidates, not targeted to just one candidate. So now that we've covered those rules for the questions, let's get started with 2-minute opening statements. Ms. Bowles, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Monica Bowles. I am obviously a member of the community. I have a child in our district. I've been involved with the school district for several years. I've served as PTA secretary initially, and then served as PTA president for 3 years, to remember here. And I also serve in our community as vice president of our community association as well. I'm a graduate of Wright State University, class of 1998, and I have had a career in housing over the last 20 or so years. Very active in the community. I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm very passionate about education. I've seen a lot of different things in the community in terms of our schools, so I've decided to be a part of the solution rather than complain and be a part of problems. And so I'm excited to run for school board again. This is my second go at it, and I've had a lot of people ask me to run again, and so here we are, and that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Dana, for having us. My name is Mark Gilbert. I'm excited at the possibility to serve a second term for Northwest Local School District Board of Education. A little about me: I'm a lifelong Colerain Township resident of 54 years. I'm married to my wife, Tia, for 30 years. We have 2 children. One is currently a senior at Colerain High School, and I had a son who graduated in 2015 from Colerain as well. I've worked in healthcare for over 30 years. I'm a graduate of the University of Cincinnati, where I studied radiology, and currently I work for a company called Steel Valley Radiology, where I'm territory director. My first term as a board member has certainly been rewarding as well as challenging. 4 years ago, I had no idea kind of what I was getting into. I have learned so much about the very complex and challenging world of public education. My first term, I was learning about the layers of complexities and the struggles that Northwest faced. My personal engagement and accomplishments during my 4-year term have been the following. I served as Student Achievement Liaison Year 1, served as Vice President Year 2, organized and executed Extreme Band Room Makeover at Colerain High School, served as Board President Year 3, served as Board President Year 4, which is this year, studied public school finance at the OSBA to better understand our funding model, served as a district official representative for OSBA years 1 and 2. If elected to a second term, my focus will be understanding the academic and emotional needs of this COVID-19 pandemic, as well as focusing to become more financially stable and less community dependent on financing.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Heather.
Hi, thanks a lot, Dana, for having us, and thank you to the viewers for participating and watching this tonight. It takes informed voters to make good choices on Election Day. My name is Chris Heather. I have been on the Northwest School Board several terms prior, including time as board president. I've been off the last 4 years. I think it's a good idea to not, there should be maybe term limits like there is with most other state offices. I have lived in the Northwest School District my entire life. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many years it is, but I'm going to give you a hint. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president when my parents brought me home to our Montford Heights abode back in the 50s. And I've lived in the Northwest School District ever since. I went to Montford Heights Elementary, White Oak Junior High, Coleraine Senior High, graduated of University of Cincinnati, and earned a doctorate from Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner, medical director at River City Mood Disorder Clinic, serving the tri-state. I'm a veteran. I was a captain in the United States Air Force for 8 years. I'm an unabashed conservative. I am not afraid of the political left. As a board member, me and the other board members were able to spend our money very carefully and take advantage of the low bond rates, and we built 3 new schools, and guess what? We did it without raising your taxes. That would be Pleasant Run Elementary, Taylor Elementary, and Struble. I will do what's the best for our district, our students, but I'll never lose sight of our taxpayers, and I'll spend every tax penny that you give us as if it were my own, and I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Talby.
All right. Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Nicole Talby, and I'm excited to be a candidate for the Northwest Local School Board of Education. My parents and my in-laws are both graduates of our schools. I am a lifelong resident of this district, as is my husband. We are high school sweethearts, graduating from Coleraine High School. We chose to raise our family in this district, and we have 3 boys. One is a junior at Coleraine High School, one is in 6th grade at Coleraine Middle School, and one is in 1st grade at Coleraine Elementary. So I'm truly vested in the future of our district. I am currently, and have been for 20 years, a senior data analyst at Emeritus, right down the street from here, and where I've also been the Community Involvement Council chairperson there for over 20 years, where leading community events and involved in many different events throughout our district as well as neighboring districts. Part of that role has been to be the business partner liaison at Struble Elementary, where I've helped coordinate volunteer events there as well. I've also been the PTA president and treasurer at several of our schools. I've gotten to meet the great staff, great administration, and great families that we have in this district. The students are my top priority, and I promise to work very hard for all members of our community. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Mr. Yoshimura.
Yeah, I just want to start off by saying thank you very much, Dana, for having us here. My qualifications, I've been a resident of Green Township / Montford Heights for close to 20 years. I have 3 kids, all of them college graduates. My educational background is I graduated from St. Ignatius High School in Chicago. I came down and went to Xavier University, got my BA in poli-sci. I also got my MA in history, primarily working doing historical analysis of minorities. I've been teaching for 35 years. I'm the only teacher on the board, so I know what teachers day in and day out go through. I've taught my last 26 of my 35 years. I taught at Walnut Hills High School, and just as an aside, I met one of my former students from the previous thing who took my class. He passed it though, so he thanked me for that. But all I can say is I don't have any hidden agenda. What you see is what you get. I put it out there for everybody to see. I continue to make sure and listen to students, people, and district personnel. I have no hidden agenda, and I don't prevaricate when asked a question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, well, we are going to get started with some questions. Again, if you're watching this live on October 14th, you can email me your questions as well. We've already got some coming in. That email address is live@waycross.org, and if you send it to that on October 14th, it will come to me here in the studio. We're going to start with you, Mr. Gilbert, and you'll all have 2 minutes to answer this question. I just want to start with an overview of what you think are the top 2 issues facing the district right now.
Sure. Thank you. I feel like the top 2 issues right now is staffing. Right now we're critical staffing for our transportation department. We're having to cancel and double up routes. We need to get kids to school. We've made every effort we can to meet some of the COVID responses, and now we stumbled into this transportation issue. There's a nationwide shortage of transportation personnel. That's the first one. The second one for me is funding. I feel like our district we have a 51 square mile footprint. We need to take a look at our buildings and right size our school district. We need to be less taxpayer centric for our funding and be more self-supportive. And I feel along with that, we need to look at some of the very successful school districts that have done corporate partnerships and things like that to assist in funding our school district. The staffing is right now critical.
Yeah, thank you. And we will go to you, Mr. Heather. What would you say are the top 2 issues?
Well, it seems like the issues are always the same. Test scores, I saw some test scores that came out today, and we're not where we should be. I'll just leave it at that. When I was a school board member in the past, I was a big proponent of uniforms for our students, just as in the military. When people feel they're a part of something, they do better. And that's why there's uniforms in football teams and in the military and at some of the private schools. We did see an improvement in discipline and in test scores. That has gone by the wayside, so I would probably work to get that reinstated. I don't think kids learn well when they're not dressed for success, when they go to school dressed as if they were going to Kings Island. It's a lot different when I was there in the 70s, that's for sure. Second thing would be funding. The state has been working on that forever. I do not favor an income tax. Some of the districts do that. They tend to pass because senior citizens are not Social Security and dividends and those sort of things are not taxed, so the seniors vote for it because they're not working, it's earned income, and would work with our state legislators to do something to finally, agree to the court mandate to get new funding systems for the state of Ohio public school systems.
Okay, great, thank you. And Ms. Talby.
Yes. One of the issues that I see currently is our parent engagement around technology, among other things. But with technology, our students are so technologically advanced more than they ever have been. And we're using Google Classroom and Progress Book and all of these things within the school. But our parents, we need to be forthcoming with that to our parents as far as how to navigate those technologies that we have. And so I'd like to, help the district create how-to videos and things for the parents to bring them up to speed and see what the students are seeing. Because if a student is getting behind on something and the parents can't see that and be transparent with that at home, it's hard for them to provide assistance to their student. Another obstacle that I see is overcoming the past year and a half, all of the students that have fallen behind or with the quarantines and COVID-19 and remote learning. And so I think that we need to work to get some smaller class sizes, bring in some additional staff and tutors to help the early age kids so that they don't get further and further behind because of this last year.
Okay, great, thank you. And Mr. Yoshimura.
Well, I was going to talk about funding, but I think the next 2 things that I think that are hitting our district is the masking and the anti-maskers. Let me just really quickly make a comment about that. I did some research on this, and there's a district in Medina, Ohio, that said that masking seems to be working. However, if there is alarming rise in COVID, they might go to remote, and I think remote just is very bad for education. In Stowe Monroe Falls District, they saw a drop in quarantine since the board implemented mandatory masking. And that is where we are with Northwest Local School District, mandatory masking. I did talk to a mother of a student. She told me flat out, she pointed her finger at me and she said, "No one has the right to tell me how to raise my child." She's absolutely correct. So we need, I see I'm running out of time here, but we need all to work together as far as coming through with this. The other thing is CRT, and I don't know if you're gonna ask about this later on, but I got a whole thing about that, but I'll just say that, does racism exist in the United States? Absolutely. Do we need CRT taught to our first graders through junior high to juniors in high school? No. I think we should formulate or establish an elective that gives a survey on all minorities in this country and make it an elective. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And Ms. Bowles.
Hi. I guess I have two as well. The first thing is obviously the impact of the pandemic and what it's had on our children. I can tell you firsthand, my child, we did the remote learning last year. Straight A/B student, all of that, honor roll student. The pandemic was not fun for us. I think there was definitely some gaps, and we're going through that now as a family and trying to bridge some gaps to get her back on track. I think that we have to look at the resources allocated to us from COVID relief funds, and we need to really look and understand how those resources are implemented, what we're doing, what are the outcomes. I've looked at some other school districts as well. I know that one school district in Butler County near us actually have 2 teachers in classrooms because some of the behavior issues with some of these kids from being away is problematic. That's just one example. Another thing is I think we really need to look at the allocation of all of our funds that we have, from our hiring practices to our operational practices and so on. I know I'm running short on time here, but I think those are 2 pretty major issues for our district, and we really need to look at that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to, and we will start with you, Mr. Heather, for the next one. And it'll be 2 minutes to answer this one too. And I'm going to go to an emailed question from Dr. Turney. This is, it relates to something that came up about parent involvement that you have already brought up. Parents are becoming less involved in extracurricular and supporting co-curricular activities. How will you engage and encourage parents to come back to supporting organizations of the district, such as PTA, boosters, etc.?
The first part of why that's different is when I was a child growing up in Montford Heights, in my entire street, which was Montford Heights and St. Ignatius kids, there wasn't a mother that worked. It was the father, and the mothers stayed home, and as a result, they had the time and energy, not that it's easy to take care of children, but they had the time and energy to get involved with PTA and extracurriculars. I don't have an answer for that. I think our society has changed so much with 2 working parents and a lot of single parents that it's really hard. When people work all day, with what I do, I lift nothing heavier than a pencil, and I come home and I'm exhausted. And mentally, and the last thing I want to do is go back out. So I'm not sure. I would think that there's ways to, I know at Coleraine High School our boosters are strong. Our PTA is strong. My sister-in-law is a former past president of the Coleraine PTA. I would just make it inviting, and I would just stress to parents that a big part of their child's education is also being involved with the stuff that's outside of school, after the classroom is over at 2:30. So much of that extracurricular stuff really turns the student into a successful adult.
Okay, Ms. Talby.
Yes. Well, this is a question that I love because this is something that I've been passionate about for many years. I think that, like Chris said, that there are many different family situations, and so I appreciate that, and I appreciate that sometimes it's hard for parents to get to the daytime things. But as a PTA president and treasurer, we've pushed out through social media recently with all the PTAs joining social media and trying to get our parents involved. We do Strickers Grove, getting parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles to come to that to support. The money that these PTAs bring in go right back to the students and to bettering the school. And so I would reach out, having a network at all three of the schools, the Corrine schools, that reaching out to those, having the PTA presidents get together and talk about ideas of ways to get more parents involved. But also just encouraging my friends and family that are at our schools as parents to invite their neighbors to come to a meeting, or tell them that we have something going on Saturday. We just did a fundraiser, and even though I've been doing it for 15 years, I met many new faces delivering mums last week. So I think it's just, there's always new people, and some don't know how to get involved. So continuing to bring those parents social media and pushing things out. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Yoshimura.
Okay, a couple of things here. And I agree with Chris and Nicole that the 21st century family structures have changed because of economics. But when the pandemic hit 2 years ago, it really isolated a lot of families from being involved. What we did I believe it was 2 years ago, we held our board meetings at certain schools. So instead of going down to the Board of Education on Banning Road, they were in their backyards coming to the board meeting to see what it was all about. And I firmly believe that we should have more of those kinds of community involvement in these school board meetings. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Bowles.
This is one that's near and dear to my heart. When I first came to our school system here several years ago, we had 2 people on our PTA at Welch Elementary, which is no longer there. And I'm not going to get into all the history there, but let's just say that we had to fix some things. I have a lot of experience in community engagement professionally, and so I was able to kind of parlay that to get more involvement. And it was not easy. However, we have to remember that our schools are extremely diverse, socioeconomically, racially, etc. So outreach doesn't look the same for all groups of people. And I think one of my favorite sayings is, we have to meet people where they are, not where we think they should be. And that's exactly what we did. And so we actually won an award from our national regional PTA for the highest level of percentage-wise of increase for PTA participation, as well as 100% teacher engagement, and they had not had that in years. So again, it's, we have to do things to reach people now based on their family status, where they're at in life, that sort of thing. I know I'm short on time, but I think you all get the gist of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Turney, for the question, because I, like everybody else, this is a great question. For the most successful student, it takes a partnership between parents and the educators in the school district. I remember when we had our first child, how scared to death I was, and obviously had no miles under my feet as to how to be a parent. One of the things that I'm most proud about Northwest is we actually have programming that teach parents aspects of parenting. So we're not just educating the students, we're actually educating the parents. We can't expect people to do things that they're not aware of that they should probably be doing, and that's a whole different aspect. The other thing is we need to be relational. I agree with what Monica said. We have to meet people where they're at. For anything to be successful, for it to be the most successful, you have to be relational with people. If you can't communicate and people don't feel safe or comfortable coming into a group, then they're not going to engage. And unfortunately, the kids will pay for that at the end. But I feel that is the greatest outcome for your kid, is if you're engaged collectively as the family and as both parents or single parent, whichever is available.
Great, thank you. And all of a sudden, I don't remember. Did you start this question, Mr. Heather? Thank you so much. Good. We're using someone's memory in here. Thank goodness it's not mine. Okay. We have more questions. Thank you for submitting that question. We're going to see how many of these we can hit. One question, and I'm going to start this one with you, Ms. Talby. 2 minutes again. One question that applies to every single school district right now in the entire state is about busing. Busing is a crisis right now all over the state of Ohio. So what solutions do you propose, in a nutshell, for this crisis?
Okay. Yes, it has affected all of us. It's affected me twice over the past few weeks myself. So just on a personal note, put out to friends and family, hey, if you're driving your kid to school, reach out to friends and family, because neighbors, there are kids who are not getting to school right now because of the busing. And that makes me really sad, because the place that we're in right now, where we've been with COVID, kids have been quarantined and they're coming back to school, and now, they're being kept from getting to school because of busing. I have read many articles and that it is a nationwide and regional shortage, and it's affecting everyone. I think that we need to think outside the box. We need to look at ways, are there boosters, vans, other things that we can use to get kids to school that may not require a CDL? Is there, extra incentives that can be pushed out to hiring practices for bus drivers, for substitutes just during this time? I think that we are losing bus drivers to, Amazon is hiring and other delivery services, as well as other districts. So possibly looking at what some of our neighboring districts are doing as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Yoshimura.
I went through this last night at the last board meeting. We need to try to hire more subs. We're not getting the subs, and then we need more mechanics. There's only 2 mechanics for the whole district. It's a very large district. The pay scale for the mechanics are anywhere from $20 to $25 an hour. Yet we farm out when a bus goes down, we farm it out to another independent situation where they fix our buses at $130 an hour. Why can't we just funnel our money towards hiring more mechanics, and also hiring more subs? Because right now we have 3 supervisors in transportation. They are driving buses every day, 2 or 3 routes a day. And they can't do their other jobs when they have to drive the kids on the buses.
Thank you. Ms. Bowles.
Several things on transportation. One, this is not a new problem. This has been going on for several years. I think that generally speaking, unfortunately, we tend to be very reactionary instead of taking a proactive approach to problem solving. I think the time to get ahead of this is not just now. It was a while ago, frankly. I just finally saw the first ad that I've seen on social media advertising for bus drivers, for example. Another thing is, I know that there is someone in our district, a very successful company. She's an engineer by trade, and she actually had a transportation business that was very successful prior to the pandemic. She approached the district with this need for transporting because we didn't have busing at the high school, for example. Very great resource for parents. She was told she couldn't be a business partner with no reason given. But these are things that we should be doing to bridge the gaps, to work with our community. members and making better decisions internally, so we're not in this constant state of reaction. So I think it's good now that we're starting to see some ads, but we've got a lot of work to do in that arena.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. I agree, we need out-of-the-box solutions. I've recently gone to Daryl Yater, our superintendent, and challenged him to look at private charters to assist during our pandemic, during this crisis. I have a friend who drives for executive charters, and the majority of their drivers drive evenings and weekends, and there is some availability through the day, and that would be a temporary solution to help out transportation. The other thing that I done, as well as Ms. Talby, is we met with Senator Blessing a week ago this past Monday, and he's working on alleviating some of the qualifications for transportation so that we can streamline getting employees in quicker than what it has been, because from what I understand, there's quite a few hoops that people have to jump through to become a qualified transportation driver.
Okay, great, thank you. And Mr. Heather.
Well, the CDL problem is extreme nationwide. 100,000 truck drivers, supply chain issues. So we're just seeing the beginning of that. I might take a play out of the playbook of Governor DeWine and offer incentives. We have a budget. When I left the Northwest School District 4 years ago, our budget, I think it was about $112 million a year. Not sure what it is now, but it's probably a little bit more than that with inflation and adjustments. I would probably make sure pay is competitive and have some sort of thing where if you don't miss any work, drive through the end of the school year, maybe we drop $35,000, assuming we could find a car, and have a grand prize for people with, I mean, you got to think outside of the box. This is a problem everywhere. And I mean, you just got to be creative in your thinking. And, you know, with maybe 100 bus drivers, I'm just throwing out a number, if your chances were 1 in 100 of winning a new car, Joe just talked about paying $130 an hour for repair work when we're paying our mechanics $25 an hour. Well, that's $105 an hour. You can buy a car pretty quick when there's a $105 an hour difference. So some sort of incentive, of course, pay the CDL license and training. I think we just have to be very creative and maybe borrow some ideas from other districts where it has worked. And I can leave it at that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, there's a lot of, a wide range of solutions there, and I think that's really interesting. I feel like this winds up leaving us with a lot of things to research. I have a very short, this will be a 1 minute, Mr. Yoshimura, we'll start with you. This will be a 1 minute kind of in a nutshell response, but I have a question from Diane that would like to know, what have you done to make things better in the schools? And I think that applies whether you have already been on the board or not, because you know, you're still part of the district. So let's start with you.
Well, primarily, I talk with the taxpayers in this district. I've talked to parents, both from the private schools and the parochials, or the private schools and also the public schools, and I get feedback from them. So what we need to do is dialogue and open up those communication lines with those parents. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Bowles.
Sure. Several things. One, I've used my experience to bridge some gaps in our district. We've had some parents who have felt excluded from processes. They felt left out, and I think I was able to bridge some of those gaps, especially serving in PTA and in other capacities. So, which was, I think, in part why we had such a heavy increase in our participation with PTA, among other things. In addition to that, communities. You know, that I've spent a career in 20 years of community engagement and volunteering in our communities, getting people involved so they understand where they can go, what they do. Again, I go back to that. We have to meet people where they are, not where we think they should be. And I'm not sure that we've always, as a whole district, have done our best in doing that. So I'm going to cut it off now. I know I'm out of time. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert.
I think the main thing is, I don't take advice from the administration as though it's the gospel. So if we have an application, our subject matter experts are the folks that are in front of our customer, which is our children and their parents. So if they come up with an initiative in our administrative office, I'll go to a building leadership, or we're all members of our community, so we all know people who work in the school district, and I'll ask them, is this initiative working? And if not, it's our responsibility as being basically the manager of the superintendent that we challenge that. You just can't come on a board and rubber stamp things. You have to question and you have to challenge.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Mr. Heather.
Well, the one thing that in the past that I've always tried to do, which I felt, we built the 3 new schools without a tax increase, is to spend money as if it were our own and not to automatically go along with whatever recommendation the administration. They work for the board. If that was the case, why have a board? If we always went along with what the superintendent or other administrators wanted. Throwing money at education is not the solution. Doing the nuts and bolts things in the schools is the solution. If throwing money was the solution, Cleveland would have the highest test scores in the state, and they have the lowest, and they spend so much. Spending money wisely, I know I talked about buying the car as an incentive for our bus drivers, but that's an extraneous circumstance there. So fiscal responsibility.
Okay, great, thank you. And Ms. Talby.
A few things that I've done and that I look to make a priority for myself is supporting our teachers and our staff. They work very hard, so anything we can do to put a smile on their face, a thank you note, and also bringing volunteers into the schools. Before school starts, we have a group that goes to Struble and puts together folders, delivers all the supplies to the teachers, just anything to help make their job a little bit easier. Another thing, last Saturday, I participated in the Core and Give Back Day. I met families from all over the district, just in a neighbor's yard that needed some help getting her yard work done, and just trying to put a smile on people's face and remind people what a great district and community we have.
Great, thank you. And we're going to take another question. Thank you for those of you who are watching live. We have a whole lot of questions coming in on email. I'm not sure we're going to get to every single one of them, but we will see how many we can. You are doing a great job giving me quick nutshell answers, so thank you for that. I have a question from Mike, and it relates to what you were saying about cost per student, so it seems like a good time to bring this one in. And we will start with you, Ms. Bowles, when we do this one. This will be a 2-minute question. Mike says that he was surprised to find out that Northwest Local School District has such a low cost per pupil in the state of Ohio. As a taxpayer, he supports putting money into schools in order to better educate children and improve the school district in order to improve property values. What are your thoughts on school levies? Would you support Northwest Local School District in future levies? And that's from Mike. Thanks, Mike. We will start with you.
Okay, so I'm going to be that person that's going to probably give a very unpopular answer, and I'm going to say I can't comment on that because I don't know when the next levy will be. I do not know who our school board members will be, and I don't know what the particular issues would be in the millage of said levy. However, let me go on record as saying I have always, since I've been voting for the last 2 years, because I'm only 22. That's a joke. But I've never not voted for a school levy. Let me start there. But I also, with that, it is important for us to really see and understand where our tax dollars are going. I'm not sure that they're always used wisely, to be frank. And I think that's something we need to start looking at more, especially as we see new programs come along, as we get all these additional funding sources like COVID-19. How are those dollars allocated? Are they done, are they effective? So I'm gonna have to say I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's great. That's
Thanks.
a great answer. And now, Mr. Gilbert.
I get first, the way Northwest is basically classified at a state level, we're classified as a rich district financially. And because of that, our price per pupil is I believe, just under $7,000 a year. And then if you look at similar districts, they get up to $9,000, $10,000 per student. So it's very different. I support levies if we've done our due diligence, that we've cleaned up any kind of spending that is unnecessary. I think in front of us is we need to right-size our school district. I believe we have too many old buildings that require too much maintenance. We need to consolidate our schools down to potentially 2 middle schools, 1 high school. It is not our responsibility to just keep coming to our community for money. I would support it if we've done our due diligence completely and the kids need it. 2 years ago, we passed a 7.5 mil levy, and we still made a $2.6 million cut months later. That was not enough to cover our expenses, which is clearly, it tells me that our expenses are out of control or we have a bad operational model.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Heather.
Well, the levy situation, I've supported most of them, but as the other candidates up here have said, without knowing the details, there's been some that I have not supported. When you're, in my opinion, there were times when I thought we were heavy with administrators making 6 figures. Back 15 years ago, that was a lot of money. And buyouts for people who left that we had to pay money to honor their contracts. You gotta have a financial base. I am absolutely not in favor of an earnings tax. They always start low and then they work their way up. Ask the people in Wyoming, ask the people in Ross. And it's not fair to put that burden on the people who work and not everybody. I would, again, look at it like we did when we built the 3 new schools. I do agree with Mr. Gilbert. When I graduated from Coleraine High School in 1974, we had 15,000 students. We have 8,900 now. Plus, there's a lot more homes in the district. People aren't having children. Not like they were when I was a kid, when you could field an 11-on-11 football team in your neighborhood. So streamlining, trying to save where we can, and if we were to merge the high schools, we've been talking about this for years. If we merge them, instead of having 2 athletic directors, 2 principals, 2 sets of assistant principals, all of a sudden now we have 1, and that saves a lot of money.
Okay. Ms. Talby.
Thank you. I have always supported the levies that we've had in the past as a taxpayer, knowing that it directly affects my neighborhood and the schools that my kids will attend as well. But like Ms. Bowles said, I would need to understand exactly what we are looking to do and what has the district done ahead of time to proactively stop having to put a levy on the ballot. What cuts have we talked about doing? What programs have we talked about merging before I would support putting another levy on the ballot?
Okay, that's great. And Mr. Yoshimura.
I'm going to go in a different direction here. The people that I talk to on the street or in the Krogers or whatever, what they seem to be saying, since they have to pay their taxes because of the levy, taxpayers want more bang for their buck. And that's both academically in the schools and the new programs that they come up with. I think those things need to be closely watched. And also accountability and transparency as far as these programs are concerned, that they need to be scrutinized.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. You all managed to fit a lot of nuance into your short little answer space, so thank you for that. I am getting more questions and kind of bigger questions than we have time to do in our brief amount of time left. So if you're watching this and you think, oh my goodness, I need to know more, please make sure you contact, all of these candidates have ways to contact them that you can easily find online. So I'm just going to put that out there because we're going to we've smushed a lot in here already, I think. Let's see. What I think I'd like to do is take time for your 2-minute closing statement, which I hate to say that we're at that point of the show because there's so many more things I want to ask you. But I want to make sure you have time for it. And I think that if you feel like we haven't hit something, you might be able to put that into your 2-minute closing statement anyway. We're going to start with you, Mr. Gilbert. And lucky you.
I was thinking it was going to be somebody else.
You're lucky.
Oh, surprise.
So I just want to thank Waycross and Dana. Thank you for, because I left my little message in your mailbox out there for the video thing. Hopefully you got that. Having served, finishing up my first term here, it takes a long time to figure out this education stuff. There's terminology. The Ohio Revised Code holds the school district very different standards and qualifications than, I'll say, the private business sector. I think coming into a second term, knowing that some of the nuances, I can ask much more detailed questions and hold people more accountable. And I don't say that people are doing the wrong things, but I've always made myself available to the community. I meet people if they want to meet. I take their phone calls. I take their emails. We are ambassadors for the community, and we need to make ourselves available for that.
Great, thank you. Mr. Heather.
Well, again, Dana, thank you very much, and Chip from Waycross, sir, thank you. Seems like this guy never sleeps. He's always doing something. I'd like to go back to when I was a prior board member. I served 3 terms, again with breaks in between several of those terms. First was elected in 2001. In my 3 terms, I missed 1 meeting, and that was the day my father passed away. So that there's nobody who was even close to that attendance. I respond to every email and phone call within 24 hours. I am involved with the schools. I run the scoreboard on Friday nights for football. I help raise money for message boards, roofs at the Corian High School. I unfortunately haven't done much for Northwest, but of course you do things for, when you're an individual citizen for where you went to high school. I was doing these as individual citizens. We certainly do have 2 high schools, and we have to treat both fairly. I will respond to whatever questions you have. As I indicated at the very beginning, I'm a strong conservative. I'm not intimidated by the political correctness that's running amok. This cancellation and woke business is insane, in my opinion, and you can count on me for being a vote for the conscience of the residents, the conservative residents of the Northwest School District.
Great, thank you. Ms. Talby.
All right, thank you. As I've said before, I'm looking to help improve our parent engagement and our community relationship, as well as community perception. I'm excited to listen to the concerns from teachers, students, and community members, and to make a difference and an impact across our entire district. I want to have an open dialogue with community members and with parents, and be willing to collaborate. I recently participated in the master facility planning meetings. We had students on there giving their opinions, and I thought that was great, and I think we should do more of those to get people involved. I am just really excited to help make a difference and to put education first and our students first. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Yoshimura.
Okay, what I'm going to say here is we've got multiple problems that face our district right now. The funding, which everybody has echoed with their statements, and the masking is the other thing, and the anti-masking people, those 2 factions. Going back to the economics here, the misappropriation of ESSER funds, CRT, and, there's a couple other things that I can mention, but the whole point, the bottom line is this. We'll listen to you, and I've listened to a lot of pros and cons as far as the issues. All I can say is to the parents out there, we're trying to keep the schools open. We're trying to keep the kids safe. Please try to work with us. If you have any questions, please email me. I'm a board member right now, and I'm willing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and Ms. Bowles.
Sure. I just want to put it out there. I've worked in both the public and the private sector over the years, primarily in housing, construction, things of that nature. And I've worked in communities. I've seen a lot of bureaucracy. I think we need to identify some of that bureaucracy in our district and alleviate it, to be frank. I think that, we need to take politics out of our schools. Take it out of our schools, out of our administration, out of our school board, out of everything. And I think it would be amazing what we could accomplish. I think we need to make sure that our students, first and foremost, are set up for success. Too many of them are not. I can tell you in my line of work, I have decided to work back in the communities again, and I have residents that are graduates of a couple of our high schools here who are functionally illiterate. We need to own that, and we need to fix that and bridge those gaps. That is a problem. And then finally, I want to make sure that, our fiscal and both our fiscal and our operational house is in order. I also want to make sure that we're not exclusionary. We have one of the most diverse districts in the state of Ohio, racially and socioeconomically. And I think we need to do a better job, frankly, of making sure that we're inclusive of everyone. If everybody looks the same on a board, on our PTA, whatever it may be, I think that's a problem, given all the diversity that we have. So I would like to help us come together to bridge some of those gaps, keep politics out, and let's get our fiscal and operational house in order. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. And by the way, if you're watching this and feel like we didn't get to some really big things, you are right. I think so too. We had just this much time to cover as much as we did, and I think we did cover a lot. But of course, like I said before, make sure you contact everyone, get all your questions answered. And why should you do that? Because it's time to vote. It's time to make an informed vote. If you need more information before you vote in the upcoming election, you can watch all of our election forums online at www.waycross.tv. You can also go to the Hamilton County Board of Elections website to make sure you're registered, to look at a sample ballot, and to find out where your polling place is. That is votehamiltoncountyohio.gov. See it right there. Registration for this election has already ended, but early voting has already started. So you can find more information about when that is right there on that website. My name is Dana Gagnon, and I'm the Government Programming Coordinator here at Waycross Community Media, and I will see you at the polls on November 2nd.